Real people, real stories, and real challenges that break the status quo. I'm your host, Zivile, and welcome to Perception Paradox. Startup glamour, right? And everyone wants to get into startup.
Yeah, I think people have this perception that it's very cool to be a startup founder and it's cool lifestyle and etc. But it's like me and my co-founder, we think that it's not.
Okay. You think that it's not? Maybe it's a great way to start actually our podcast episode.
I think it is a mega rewarding experience to actually build something which is used by many people and it can make a difference in the world. But the whole ecosystem and I think the whole system is built in a way that it uses everyone for commercial purposes, and you are kind of as a startup also a product for VCs. And there is a thin line, while you still do a great stuff for society, great stuff for yourself and for your investors. Because when you skip one of these parts, something breaks. Either you don't make money, either you are not useful for society, but you just make a lot of money, and either you are, as a founder, maybe going to the dark places because you don't really like what you do. So I know. So we think that there is really useful to think about all these aspects and be cautious about possibilities.
Wow, Paulus, what an intro! Cheers for that! Amazing. Well, I guess that's a great way to start the episode. We can just dive in and see where it leads us. So, ladies and gentlemen, today I have with me Paulus. Paulus and I we met many years ago through tennis, and then ever since, I guess we would always bump into each other. Same university, some kind of pitch competitions, then the startup scene. And here we are right now sitting and diving into Paulus' story, which is very, I would say inspiring actually. And so it's very interesting to tell you, it's very cool that we're here right now and we can see the difference between how do I see you from the outside, right? You be creating multiple businesses and I don't know, I think you also got quite some recognition between the acceleration programs, having right now seems like successful expansion. But to dive into the other side of entrepreneurship and the stories that usually are being untold. So maybe we can kick off, how did your entrepreneurial journey start?
Yeah, definitely. So first of all, thank you for having me. It's really interesting, and I think that we can dive into interesting themes, as what the name of the podcast says, perception paradoxes. They exist.
Yeah.
I think many of them are existing in the startups. So happy to dive into any of the surrounding topics now.
Amazing. So how did you start being an entrepreneur? Because you've done multiple
That's
businesses.
a good question. I think what I consider a starting point is that when I was 12 years old, I guess, we went on a family vacation to Turkey, big family resort with family. And my mother, just out of herself, wish, bought me Richard Branson's autobiography.
Oh my God.
Becoming a Virgin. And that was one of the best vacations I ever had. I read that book 2 times in that 1 week. And it's that's when I thought, okay, so maybe entrepreneurship is a way.
Oh my goodness.
Because you can do cool stuff when you are creating businesses, and the whole story, how he kind of started the making money because he just wanted to make sure that his newspaper stays alive, as his first kind of way of actually earning something, and why he did it. And that was okay, that's a good starting point. Let's see what I could do. So that was 12, 13 years of age for myself. And what followed was that so I started to look for opportunities, activities, being active in what's possible and what's not possible to do. I had a very big hobby for aero modeling, remote controlled planes, gliders, and it was pre-drones. So then there was also a drone period for myself, but before that, it was everything with one motor and wings usually. So I had a big hobby, participated in international competitions, and I thought that maybe I can do an e-shop for these things, because it was I don't know, a year, but there weren't many e-shops.
How old were you?
So that was like, I started to think about when I was 15.
Oh my god.
When I was 15, I started to think, okay, there is an opportunity because I'm buying stuff like from China, from Germany, from UK, and like my friends are asking me like, could I resell them something? So I'm like, okay, maybe I can buy more and resell more and make some cash on side.
Wow.
So that's how my like cautious business entrepreneurship journey started, and I think there was like a very interesting pivoting moment in that when I actually said, okay, I need a business entity. Like I need to actually accept quite a lot of inflows of cash, like to sell stuff legally, and I'm 16 years old. I cannot do it legally, according to Lithuanian laws. And I went to my parents and were like, we had a discussion. Like, okay, so I want a legal entity. It might be like the smallest possible, like the easiest limited liability, like entity which is possible according to Lithuanian law. But my father said, like, I will not sign documents on your behalf, basically.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, so what do I do now? Like, I still need to wait 2 years. And it is really actually a funny story. So the building which we are now sitting at, there it was basically opening of this building, or it was opened like very recently, and there is like huge like board meeting room at the first floor, and there was an event of like ecosystem of technology kind of entrepreneurs and an ecosystem which was like very small in Vilnius back in the day, and there were like very young lawyers presenting their like newly formed law firm, and we somehow I don't remember how it happened. Like we had a chat about what I'm doing, what I'm planning to do, and I shared my story that I need a legal entity, but I'm like underage, and what can we do? And we were like, there is a way. I'm like, okay, I'm listening. I'm listening, and they pitched me the idea that it is possible to get full legal rights of an adult while still being 16 years old.
Okay.
And we like continued conversation after the event, and we are like, okay, we can do your case pro bono. It's very interesting. We'll do some PR for it. And basically, we went through very tedious legal procedure to show to Lithuanian government that as a 16-year-old, I am cautious enough about my own actions and intentions to get full legal rights of an adult. And after, I don't know, 5 months maybe of the procedures, like many documents, meetings with a lot of like child safety and other agencies, like my parents were involved, so we had to endure all that because like we didn't want to sign on my behalf before. Child protection agency even went to our flat, like to evaluate the living standard, like all that. Like, are my parents like are not mistreating me, and why do
you want to work?
Yeah, why do I need like to separate legally myself like as an individual? And after like there was like court assembly. The lawyers pitched my case. I pitched myself. Why do I need it? I need a legal entity to accept money from my e-shop, and I get rights. I'm like 16 years old, and I can do whatever I want legally. I can resign from schools, like I can buy property on my name and all that.
Did you do that? Did you resign?
Yes, from school.
No way. How was that?
That was very cool. Like basically, so in my childhood, I either way like changed a lot of schools. Like I at the time I didn't feel that the educational system in Lithuania was serving me well. So what I migrated, I think in total in 13 years I changed like 7 schools.
Okay, that's quite a lot.
Quite a lot. It's basically every year, but it's more like the beginning years were okay, and then in the last years it was like
last 6 years.
Yeah, I changed quite a lot of schools, but I think it was a cool experience. But yeah, so there was a period when okay, so my e-shop is kind of working. I'm preparing like for World Championship of these remote control gliders, which was supposed to be in France, I guess. I fundraised for it. I got some money from external donors.
Being 16.
16, then maybe 17 already. And I was like, okay, so I'm not attending school, so the school is not very happy about it. And I just called the director of the school, and I'm like, so you know my situation, I can do it myself without involvement of the parents, so I'm resigning from the school. I might come back later. I did this in like midday, and then basically with my best friend we went to celebrate, like me being loose out of the school. And I remember my father calling me, like just randomly, like checking in on me, because I already lived like separately from the family.
Okay, so you already moved out, like.
Yeah, I moved out, and I was left like to live alone. And father checking in on me, and he's like, "What's up? What's new?" And I'm like, I just resigned today from the I don't know, like 5th school already. He was not happy. Nobody in the family was happy about it, because a lot of my family history is tied as like education careers, like teachers, university teachers, directors of basically the colleges.
Mm-hmm.
So people thought that I'm crazy, in a sense, in the family.
Okay.
So that's how it started with my entrepreneurship.
Wait. That's a very powerful story, I have to tell you. But I have a couple of more questions. Question number 1, how did you manage the relationship with your family when you resigned from school?
So I think like generally the relationships were broken until the moment I came back to school, like
okay.
with like 90% of the family members. So basically I had a mother support and grandmother who was like on kind of sidelines, like she's like, you're smart enough, you'll get your way, like whichever way you want it, we'll see, like okay. I still trust you. So I lived on this for like 2 years. So
that trusting actually, do you think it helped you to?
I think like as a kid, like it's still important like to have at least like 1 or 2 like adults who still like believe in you.
Yeah.
And at that point, I also had a coach, like in his broad scope, like coach, life coach.
Oh wow.
So that guy was also, I think, important in parts of his journey, because he encouraged quite some actions. Like at least he didn't stop. Like he was adult, I was a kid, and he encouraged like take the steps, like do it, like why not?
Wow.
What can you lose? And all that. So I think that was also important, like steps, which brought me like to actually do it.
Nice. And then what's happened to the business?
The business. So I think like let's see like timelines. So the France World Championship finished. I participated there at the same time as for the adult team and for the kids team. Surprisingly, I did very well on the adult like table of the ledger, and on the kids one it was not a great result. But as a team, we finished in the 4th place in the world.
Wow.
Like as adult team. So I think that's pretty cool result in itself. Good experience, like because like we were like actually training like the last 2 months before that, like every day I actually skipped the school. I had like friends who were able to drive me to like airfields like every day. Like we split the bills for gas, and we actually trained a lot, so the results were good. So I think that's also important experience in itself. When you put a lot of effort, you can achieve like world-class results.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the biggest win was, of course, like US took like number 1 place. I think Australians were number 2. I don't remember who was number 3, but we were above Germany, so we were very happy.
I think I recalled actually when there was a post or something about that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. Drone flying, seriously.
It was gliders.
Gliders, yeah, wow. Where did you get this energy to continue when a lot of people thought that you were crazy while being so young, dropping out of school, and then just doing things that are not really common in our society?
I know it's a good question, but I think like we chatted about it before. Like I think tennis made an influence.
Mm-hmm.
Because in tennis you're kind of like it's single sport. Like you are alone, like
Yeah.
with your head. That's it. All you have is your body and your head.
And emotions.
But emotions, like I can part of the head, like.
That's true.
And I think the head is more important than like physical preparation in many cases. So as in tennis, like you never lose until you actually lose. So even if you are like 1 point from losing, like you still have a chance, and you can overcome yourself like emotionally win against your opponent and just continue grinding. So as I played tennis since like 4 years old, I think it was very forming, like to never give up, because there are experiences where like actually important like national level competitions and you're losing, and actually you just do it somehow, like through all the sheer will, and you win. And like as a kids, maybe younger people, you're still like crying like other 12-year-olds or something like that, and you're like, okay, so I won. That's cool. So I think tennis made an influence, and that's like never give up to the last moment. It's until you shake the hand of your opponent, it's still not over. Everything can change the last second.
Okay, that's a very good learning actually. I like your comparison about this. Until the last point, you still have to compete and you cannot give up. You should not
There
give
is
up.
no final result yet. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great analogy. Like a lot of like startup rule books says like the startup fails when the founder fails. Like the founder does not believe anymore. Because if a founder or both founders or three founders, which are founding team, still has a idea how to change it, how to flip it, like the startup is alive. Yeah, you might have like to minimize the team, maybe change something drastically, pivot second, third time, but until you still believe in the company, you can turn it around.
Yeah.
So I think it's a great analogy.
Amazing. So look, Paulius, you just shared your incredible story of growing up, having completely different teenage year and formative years, and then what I recall, what we discussed and how much I know you, you went back to school, right? You went also to university and kind of on a side continued businesses. What made you to come back to educational system?
Good question. I will try to remember like as exact train of thought which I had like many years ago. But so maybe let's come back after like the world championship of the gliders. So it finished. I borrowed more money than I fundraised, so I was kind of in a personal debt.
Okay.
That was also an experience. As a kid, that was not a very small debt. And then the e-shop was not doing great, so I kind of sold the whole e-shop with all the stock. Negligible profit, but still it's funny story how I did it.
How did you sell it?
I got a competitor store like to actually consider that it's a great move to buy me out, and I was happy to sell all the dead and not dead stock. And the guy bought it, and then he paid back me in like installments, and with every installment he was less happy to pay me money because he was not also like doing great. So that was fun, and I was already back at school, I guess, at that point, and like we meeting like in the shopping malls, and like he's like bringing back thousands of like litas, even not euros at the moment.
Oh my god!
It's like it was an experience. So basically I sold the e-shop, didn't make much money out of it, but at least got back the initial investments and a bit more. So no more like serious competitions in the coming years, and I was like, okay, so do I need to learn something else like to actually make it in the business world? And I found, because like I still didn't like too much of educational system, at least in this part of Europe, and I was like, okay, so in London, I found one specific course in one specific university, like which had basically experience gaining internships are intermixed with business classes.
Okay.
And it's like not that you have like one internship, but it was every year you spend like 3 months actually as a paid internship, and that was very interesting for me. And that was like the motivator for me to, okay, so if I want to go to like good university in the UK, I need like actually finish the school first and likely to get good grades. And that was the thing, like, which maybe motivated. Plus, of course, like the family peer pressure, like that was always felt like, okay, so when will you go back? Like, so the competition ended. Like, what you'll do now? Like, what's the plan? So I think like these two things made it happen. And I changed school one more time. Like, I actually got into pretty prestigious Vilnius school, gymnasium, which seemed like as legit as it can be, like at that moment. And so with the goal like to get to the university in UK, I actually started to study something. I never got bad grades. Like I always had like better than average grades. That was the problem for schools. Like they cannot discard me from school because I have the good grades. But I'm not attending school because I didn't want to attend. So that was like, I even got like expelled from private school once.
Did you? Because you did not attend that?
Yeah, exactly. Like they couldn't find like a good reason, so they invited me and my mother. Like it was pre like this emancipation until I got fully grades, and the director is like, "You are not making good example for your classmates. You have okay grades, but you are bad example.
Well,
we need to find a solution."
So good point. There point.
There is a point. Like for sure.
Oh
But so
what were you doing when you were not attending school?
I never did bad stuff. Like I always my usual like I went to like the workshop where I was constructing the gliders. Like maybe even before like France competition, maybe some smaller competition, but like preparing, making them, building them, tailoring something. And my other very favorite activity was just to walk by the river in Vilnius.
Okay.
I was just walking, and I didn't care, like alone with upper classmates who skip classes. Usually it's not the best people like who skip classes, so I have great stories like from people who usually are not perceived like by society too well. And I somehow connect with them also, like why not, we have interesting stories to share. And we just walked, never drinking, never like smoking, never partying.
It's insane.
And then my parents never understood, like, so I live alone like from 16. And I never did a party though, until like 21 or something. And we're like, that's good maybe.
What's happening with you, Boris? Amazing, wow.
Yeah, so that's pretty...
That's pretty wild.
Strange, like I'd say.
I know, it's fun. So okay, so you got into university and then continued doing the startup thing?
Yeah, so I didn't get to the UK university. I got pretty good grades. I got like the semesters which meant like to be evaluated. I got like 9.333 average out of everything.
That's pretty good.
And that was somehow not enough. I even went for interview, but I was not allowed. And I was like very specific. Like I didn't apply as you maybe know. Like when you apply to UK university as a foreigner, you can choose like 5 universities.
I did apply too.
And I chose only one with only one program. And that's it. I didn't get to the one I wanted. And it was like, okay, so now I need to readjust my plan somehow. And then there is a cool business university, private one in Lithuania, so you know it, of course, ISM, and I'm like, okay, so it seems good enough. Like, I don't want like to go to random university somewhere else, and if I stay in Lithuania, maybe I can continue building my like business network, connections, and do something.
Yeah.
And I went to university already like with plans to do some student union activities, and we issued like magazine for students.
I remember that magazine. I was still, I think, at university when you...
Yeah, could be.
Yeah.
So I basically had an idea for that magazine even before I joined the university, because I did some research, and like it's like the best private university in the country, and it doesn't have like its own magazine. Like, so why not like to have it? Like there should be a way for students to voice their opinion publicly, and that was like a legit idea. And after I think like half a year, we assembled a team with colleagues, and we did the magazine. So there was that. And university was good, and at that time, like the startup ecosystem was starting to born in Lithuania, and university got some grants to open like startup accelerator. I think it was called like Innovate or something.
Something like that.
And my colleague from like editorial team at the magazine, he's like, "Why not to apply?" Like, okay. So we applied and we got we won as top 10 teams some money. It was small money. It was 10,000 liters initially. So it's what in euros?
3.5.
Yeah,
whatever. It's like it's really little.
Small amount of.
But then it was not small money.
And we joked that maybe we need to split it into two halves, and we made some profit out of nothing because there was no rules that you have to do something.
No way.
You just get the money, and then it's up to you. And we are okay, let's do a startup. Everyone is doing startup. It's a startup competition. Let's do a startup. And we actually did it.
Okay, what kind of startup did you do?
It was basically back in the day before Google Drive with all the Google Docs were actually a thing in Europe. So maybe it even just started in US or something. And there were a lot of data sets or data being distributed between small businesses in different sources, different formats. And my colleague was a guy who programmed, and he was okay, let's connect the data sources. Let's make something which unites the data for small businesses. And we created, I think it was tiny accounting app and tiny project management app.
Okay.
And the idea was that underlying layer of the data can exchange from the projects, we can give the data to accounting, and accounting can do some project stuff. And it's on MVP level, it worked, it was pretty cool. So out of this money, we rented tiny office space. And we never paid salary to anyone, but we just fed pizzas to everyone.
No way.
And we lived like that for a year and something, on pizzas, as a students, team of 6. Great people, they.
So you did it all for 10,000 liters?
So when later they gave us 5,000 more.
Okay.
So that was.
That's insane.
That's insane. But that was the forming experience, and because it's a good time. So we were very young, but initially, the first VC fund was established in Lithuania. We got some mentorship from our established accelerators, or people who started to experience. And all these people now, we run big startups, big funds, and we just got to connect to them very early in Lithuanian startup journey, and that was great.
And then what's happened then?
Well, what happened then? So basically, we were afraid to sell these softwares. We got a client, but it was I think the usual thing where not feeling safe enough about your product to sell it, and maybe it's related to accounting. Maybe we made some mistakes, legal problems, etc. So we were afraid to sell it, so couldn't fundraise without actually any revenues. So very standard startup.
Is it very common trait in the startup scene that you're afraid to sell?
I don't know, the book says so, and I failed my first startup with this problem being one of the core ones. At least why we did not fundraise. So I definitely now encourage just ship it. Nobody cares. Nobody will care if you die, and if you make mistakes, you can at least change something.
And then you were just holding yourself back because you felt that the product is not ready.
Yeah, so we didn't make the sale, and it was impossible basically to fundraise. And when we split with a co-founder, basically for the rest of the team, we were all in the final years of the studies, and
the thesis and everything.
Yeah, and all the guys on the team were very smart and dedicated to what we do, and we just decided, okay, so maybe just skip on it and let's finish university on a high level. And we all did it, and that was great. I think it was a wise choice in the end.
What did you learn the most out of this experience?
I know, we did a lot, with my co-founder, we hired first people, we fired first people.
Hired for pizza, you mean?
Yes, it's still with working employment contracts.
Oh, okay. Nice.
Yeah, it was legal, so I remember we called him a lawyer, and he's I can make a document, but will it mean much? I don't know. You pay no money, and you require stuff and work from people, and you might pay them later. So I know labor laws and then these agreements are not in line, I guess, too much. But that was interesting, and I think so basic learnings, yes, but more important, I think being at the start of the ecosystem birth in Lithuania was the most valuable thing which we got out of it. Because we knew what's the startup, we knew all the initial people. I remember some meetings where the guys are coming like, guys, there will be a VC fund in Lithuania. We will give money to people like you.
Yeah.
It sounds like surreal now. Like,
yeah, it does sound surreal actually when I think
but
about it.
when you think about it, so what we are talking is like 12, 13 years ago.
Yes, and I remember that one of the reasons why, so I stayed to study in Lithuania at ISM. It was actually the last minute application where I chose 2 programs. One of them was at ISM, International Business and Communication, another was Economics and Politics. And I was like, okay, but I want number 1, if I get in, I stay in Lithuania, I don't go to UK. And I got in, and the reason I left after university, because I always wanted to travel and stuff, with the Young Entrepreneurs program, just because I'm like, okay, I like it here, it's growing, but I want to learn from the major ecosystems. And then I started going through the ecosystem. So, and it's insane when I'm more and more back and more involved also in the politics to see this whole growth.
Yeah, it's very different, and the trajectory of growth of this region is like compared to ours is way steeper. And it's very cool people, very friendly atmosphere. So
Yeah.
I think it's unique in that sense. Of course, we have some places where we could be better, maybe on like growth financing and stuff, but I think it's very good.
What do you find unique about Lithuanian ecosystem?
I don't know, I think maybe everyone says that, or at least it's like folklore, that everyone is super friendly. And I think it's true, and not only on superficial level, but also like in the larger like thing. Like all the startup founders, we are happy to share the contacts, happy to introduce each other to clients and VCs and employee referrals, like whatnot, like all that. And because we don't compete, like we are not making substantial money any of the bigger startups in Lithuania, because it's at best it's a test market. And in reality, you always have to think about like internationalization and going after the big markets. And in that case, you're not competing locally, but you're based like here in geographic location. And then you're free to help each other. Like there is no competition. I think that helps compared to like if you're in Poland, France, or Germany, where you have like big local market. You might copy each other. You might compete for the same like VCs and stuff, and it's makes it different. I don't know. Like actually today, I read one Estonian VC comparing Estonian ecosystem to Swedish ecosystem. So he basically says the same, like that the Estonian ecosystem is mega friendly and helpful, but it was similar in Sweden, like in 2000s, and now it isn't. And it maybe in adulthood of the ecosystem it changes. I don't know. So maybe we didn't reach this point in Lithuania yet. But
I hope not.
I hope that we will.
I hope that we won't reach that point and we will stay human and on that friendly note. Yeah.
That's true.
But I found through all the ecosystems, at the end of the day, collaboration is the key. And when you start noticing all those parts breaking, when this kind of not nice competition starts, then that's when the nation falls.
True.
In a way. That's so interesting. It's cool that you were witnessing this whole startup growth. And it sounds so beautiful and so kind of visionary, etc. What were the major challenges you were facing along the way right now with your entrepreneurial career? What would be like sometimes, I don't know.
I don't know, like what are the challenges? So maybe let's come back to the very beginning of the conversation. Like, what's the startup glamour and what actually a startup journey entails?
Yeah.
So I think it's not talked quite enough about that. It's not very easy. It will take a lot of effort, like to ship the first product, like to get actual usage, to get first financing, to get follow-on financing. Like in very, very rare cases, all these parts are easy. Something will definitely be hard. And likely more than one of these areas will be not easy. And then what it brings like to personal life, because you might have a family, like you might have friends, like you might lose some friends. Hopefully you don't lose family support because of how much time you dedicate to the business and how much it can take from you. Because that was like what I learned, like the business can take all your time. Whatever you have, it can take 110%. And you likely need to give all that 110% like to make it stand out. But when you start losing like time with friends, time with family, time with kids, and all that has a cost. and that a cost of doing a startup is not only maybe your personal, but also of your like personal community, like families and all around you. So this is like what people likely sometimes don't think about it, and I think that's all the internal stuff in the company, like hiring people, managing people, people problem, product problems, solutions problems, and we just keep going. Something doesn't work always.
Okay, so it's basically you have to be a good problem solver.
That's like the key thing, like at least in my head, like I expect that there will be problems. It's the question how good of a problem solver I am and how much I trust myself and the team that we will solve like at least like 99% of the problems like quickly and on a high level.
Yeah.
Because you'll get new ones. Like you scale, you improve like some metrics, growth, revenues, something will break. Like you don't know yet what might break.
What would be the key characteristics of a successful founder, a founder who will, so, I don't know, like there are those different characteristics, venture capitalists also portray that we're looking for this kind of person, dedication, commitment, and so on.
I don't know, like it's good question. Like a lot of people think maybe and write like smart people that you have to be obsessed, but and that's like the question, like how to be obsessed but not to kill your maybe full personal life, or be ready to pay the price. Because what I see, at least in our maybe journey difference with current company, that in periods you are obsessed, in periods you're just highly active, maybe you're working like 16 hours a day for continued periods, but just keep going, like just keep going, like as we discussed, like and I have friends who started journeys of being startup founder and they just quit at some point. And why they quit? Because the price is too high. So let's evaluate like the price points and can you actually pay that price? And if you can, just never stop. Because if you do not stop, like you do not fail, you will find a way. And I think that's the key point. Obsession with what you do, that you actually like what you do. It's not. It shouldn't be like just for money. Money is important. Make a lot of money is helps like with personal maybe goals, family goals, etc. But only money, I think it's too little of a motivator. You need to have something extra, like why you are obsessed. Like maybe you want to prove yourself. Maybe you want to prove like. Just, I think Harry Stebbings, like this very famous UK VC and broadcaster of startups. Like he has like that. He likes the founders who have a chip on the shoulder. Like there's some secret internal reason why you will never stop. Like why you have to make it happen. Like, I think that's really.
Do you have yours?
I don't know. Like I think I do. I'm not planning to stop anytime soon. Because I want to make it work. I want to show also like my generation of people that it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm really happy that we now in Lithuania have like numerous unicorns, like which show us that it's possible like to do something huge from this country. And I think it would be great like just to continue the track record. Like you can do it from here, you can be like with the background in this region, just think internationally from the day one. Expand, do correct stuff, doing correct stuff, fail, learn, like repeats. Just do it. But it's not for everyone. Like that's the thing. Like I think like 2 years, if you would have asked me like should everyone start to start on, like, it's cool stuff. Like not easy, but everyone should try it. And now after like running current company for what like 4.5 years.
Oh wow.
I think I changed my answer. Like not everyone should do a startup.
Yeah. So that was my learning actually after I attended myself accelerator and got to engage so many different people from so many different backgrounds, and then you keep seeing the traits, and then there are so many wrong reasons why someone wants to be a founder, and usually it's some kind of external validation or because you can make a lot of money, and then at the end of the day it won't lead you to yes, exactly. I'm like, okay, that was one of the realizations. Not everyone should do that. Unless you really have a problem you want to solve and you really want to do that change in the area.
And then it's a question if venture capital is the way or not.
And another one, exactly. Is it really you have to do the
maybe
venture
we can
capital
have
way.
more impact like via other funding ways or other like positions in life or like being parts of other companies.
Yeah, but it seems like it became the hype in the last couple of years, right? Oh, it's so cool to be a founder, tech founder, and all the vibes. So
Depends on when, I guess. I don't know, like of course there was like this uncontrolled boom pre-COVID and during COVID.
yeah,
And when everyone like changed a lot of like their lifestyles during COVID, and maybe like startups still seem like okay, you still get money when you start a startup, why not to do it? But maybe now it changed a bit. Maybe new startups are not being also birthed like so often now as it was like 2-3 years ago. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it's all changing. But talking about your latest startup, right? So can you tell more? How did you start it? Because I remember we were talking that initial idea of Traxlo was completely different, and then you literally saw the need, and then you transformed it and pivoted.
Yeah, so the journey is not like straightforward. So it started when I went to Antler Accelerator in Stockholm, Sweden, and I met my co-founder one day before the accelerator, just for like social dinner. We organized like I invited like all Lithuanians like to just meet before the program starts. We met and we clicked, so that was cool.
Nice.
And he wanted to work in retail industry. He's very technical, and I was from the retail industry from my previous experience, which I did for like close to 4 years after finishing university. Actually, our startup in computer vision and AI in retail. So we clicked. We thought that retail has a problem of labor shortage, and we initially thought that we can optimize existing employees via help of IoT sensors and location tracking and all that stuff. And we got Antler investment into the company to actually do it. So we got initial customers, huge installation, like IoT sensors on everything what moves. Like all the employees had location tags, all logistic cards had a like location tag, cleaning machines had a location tag. And we were analyzing the movement of these tags, and then later compared the data to task planning.
Okay.
And the learning was that the task planning mismatch with